Caribou are among the most important animals for our community. We are Caribou people.
So that's one thing I'm going to fight for. Keep that road off our land.
There is a question here in the chat that I want to address right now before we continue. Someone has asked, how can we support the HTO and ways to voice our opposition to the development of the road and port? And I love that for hearing that question. And if you go to the website, so kugluktukhto.org, there are some steps that we're asking people to consider doing, and Amanda will go over those at the end. So just plugging that in there, revisit the website once we're done, and hopefully you will join some of our action items there. Now it is 6:25. So welcome back from watching the film. And I'm going to invite Amanda to walk us through what's next. What is the context? Why did we get into this film? And things like that. So I'll give it to you, Amanda.
Right on. Thank you, Andrea. So as I stated in the film, this project has come and gone so many times, and wildlife is my passion. Being on the land is my passion. And at the HTO level, in my role as manager, I was thinking about, okay, we need to figure out what we're going to do. So it started with board support, the board saying, no, we oppose this road. And so me being the manager and in charge of, implementing what the board says and does, in talking with different research partners, and we decided we wanted to have something really, really powerful to showcase. And I think that's where, Cloudberry came in, because of Andrea's past work with our board and our community. And because there's that really strong relation that has happened for so many years, flowing into this project was very, very easy to do, because Andrea had come many, many times, and there was trust between the research that was done before and the community members. And so we wanted to figure out a way about how we can have our voices heard. We wanted a way that can be shared, very far and wide. And I think that's when we decided on doing something like this, because as you know, technology nowadays is very, very strong, very easy, and we can reach so many different people. It wasn't that easy. We had to figure out, okay, who are we going to interview? And I think we went back to some of the traditional knowledge interviews we did back in 2017-18, and we have some of those. And of course, our current chair, Alan. Nigel is one of our former HTO members, and then Floyd. But I think what's really important is that, they're all harvesters. They're all harvesters of, dolphin and union caribou. And I think, having that love and knowledge of that is what you see in the film, their passion. And then so it was a process. We had to do interviews. They're all done in my office. But we also did some filming at ArcticNet in Calgary. And then, going through what was said during all of those interviews, and then the Cloudberry team pulling in, like key messages that we had talked about, what the HTO wanted to put forth. And I think they did such an amazing job in doing that. I don't know if Alan wants to throw in anything else.
Yes, thank you, Amanda and Andrea. Uh, just the point that we finally have a table to get our voices heard and our opinions and our feelings to the rest of the world, or Canada in particular. That, like she said, technology is amazing now compared to years ago, and we can be heard on the same day it's premiered. Is crazy compared to what it used to be. You used to have to write letters and everything, and or go meet and be together. Now we're miles apart and we're still communicating and getting our message across. The message from what some of our people have been saying to us about the road, about the animals, about the land. You know, we've always heard it from our elders. Look after it. Any little bit helps. And this is something that I'm hoping it'll help and create something to save and keep the animals there forever. Like I said in the movie, extinction is forever and it's gone. I don't want to see that because our families, everyone, all Inuit need to see animals around, and especially caribou for caribou people. Like we've depended on caribou, seals, fish, but caribou was also our staple. So getting that message across from us and to have it premiered at this time just before Nunavut Day, it makes me smile and say, yes, we're sending a strong message and getting to people, everyone. Thank you for taking the time, watching and listening, because it is important. The land, no matter where you are, all of it is important. It is energy. We are energy. And if that energy of the caribou die, we will slowly lose that extra energy. And I don't want to ever see that. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Amanda and Alan. So now I'm going to share some of the research that went into the film, particularly those hotspots that we had shown. We've kind of already gone over this. I'm going to skip through a few slides because I didn't know how much background you would need. But these are the dolphin-eating caribou. From the traditional knowledge that's available, we're all seeing a decline in their abundance, and the surveys are saying the same thing. So pretty much same message, the dolphin-eating caribou population has gone down. There's the COSEWIC has federally reassessed the caribou as endangered, and that was sent to the minister and had their response by late 2018, early 2019, and the governor and council decision was due by late 2020, still pending. And despite there being support from the Nunavut Wildlife Management Board and from the government of Northwest Territories assessment and their uplisting in 2024. So these are where we know the caribou are. This map on the left is a map from the NWT SARC assessment, so their species at risk assessment in 2023. And the one on the left is from some mapping that I had done with harvesters in Kugluktuk, where are caribou. And here's where the proposed road route is. And if you follow the stars, that's right in the middle of this really dark red area, and right in the middle of their migration route. So at this point, we're like, oh, wait, we actually have quite a bit of data that shows where harvesters go to get dolphin union. There's data from the community-based monitoring program that's run with the Coots Research Group and the HTO. And we have data from that from 2017 to 2024. The government of Nunavut had been collecting harvest reports starting in 2017, and then the harvesting reports became mandatory when the total allowable harvest went in 2020, I think it was. And then the traditional knowledge mapping that I'd done in community during my PhD. And the first two aren't that long, so very nice to map, just a point on the map. But when we're doing in interviews, people often draw circles, so those are polygons. And so here's the sample data, here's the GN data, and here's the interview data. So to get these polygons into a form that we could compare to the point data, what we did is overlay this grid, it's a hexagon grid, that then acts as a cookie cutter on all of those drawn polygons, so they all break apart. And then we can place dots right in the middle of all those parts where the cookie cutter sits on top. So we're left just with a bunch of dots along the grid. And then we can combine all the now point data together and add some color to it. So on this version, the darkest color is where there are the most data points, and the lighter is where there's fewer data points. Now the data actually has these natural breaks in it. And if we color it that way, it ends up looking like this. So we have these really dark red areas, which are what we're calling our hotspots. So this first hotspot, second hotspot, third hotspot, the first one is what we focused on for the film. And it's because that's right where the proposed road would cut through. Now, we currently have this research out as a preprint, so it's not peer-reviewed yet. We did just get the peer reviews, so soon there will be the peer-reviewed version available online. And that is it for this research stage. I am going to give it back, stop sharing my screen, and let Alan, if you have any more words you want to share about how this connects to Nunavut Day, or just in general.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, like I said, it falls in very appropriately onto Nunavut Day, because Nunavut Day is celebrating the land of Nunavut, how it became back to us, not just to the governments or anything, but how we can control it. We were given the rights to look after the land and to share not only the harvest, but traditional areas. And we're working on something that we want to see happen is protected areas. We don't have very many protected areas in and around Kugluktuk, and we need something to work on that and to get that done. Because like us, we have homes. Caribou and animals have their own homes, but they don't have their protected areas. So we need to work on that and get that started and finished to have caribou homes, moose homes, grizzly homes, which are protected, just like our own home. And like I said, thank you for watching and sharing and listening. But come talk to us, you know. Thank you.
Awesome. I'll share my screen again, and then Amanda, do you want to go over what some next steps are?
Yep, thank you. I'll wait for the screen.
There it is.
I just want to say thank you to everybody for hopping on and watching the film. What we plan on doing now, when we have our official package and everything ready for the Nunavut Impact Review Board hearing, this film will be part of our testimony because it really shows what's very important to our community. We've also reached out to individual HTOs in our region. We're asking for their support. And in the future, we'll be asking for the Regional Wildlife Board support as well. And and hopefully then we can have something from them coming to NERB as well. But if you want to submit any comments, just go into nerb.ca. There's a project number here. You can also find it really easy on the website. We'll also be doing a petition for the Major Projects Office because we don't want this to go and be fast-tracked, because it will really go against our rights under the Nunavut Agreement. It'll take away those rights. You know, they say there's a duty to consult, but if it's fast-tracked, I don't think we will see that. So there will be a petition calling for this project to be removed from the Major Projects Office. You know, and share our film. It'll be available on YouTube as well. Share it far and wide. I think we can put in our email address in there as well. Reach out to me at any time. But we want to be heard, and I think this is one of our very strong ways that we can do it. We'll also be calling on NERB to have the technical hearing in Kugluktuk so that we can bring our community members to the actual hearing. But that has yet to be worked out. But I think that's it for now. But submitting comments to NERB, signing the petition, and sharing our film will go a really long way. Thank you.
Andy, you're just muted right now.
Of course I am. So
Mhm.
here, if I can move things, just sharing what the website looks like. So at the bottom of it, there is this Make Your Voice Heard piece. So you've already registered to be here, so you don't have to worry about this first part. This is what Amanda was talking about. You can submit directly on the NERB portal, or since you have to make an account to do that, you can also submit through the website, and then the HTO will package all those together and submit it to NERB on your behalf. Here we also have the petition to sign, so that'll take you to the petition. And then if, as an organization, if you wanted to endorse the film, you can submit your logo through this button, and we will add logos to the end of the film before the credits roll. And with that, I'll leave it to you, David.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. And it seems like we've had a number of people asking some questions, which we can get to. And just a little reminder, if people have more questions along the way, there is that Q&A box in the bottom right of your screen. If you don't see it, you can click on the More button. So feel free to submit your questions that way. But a first question is, Andy, you shared quite a bit of context around this project already, but some people were wondering a little bit more about the context of this road and specifically the timeline of when it's planned to be built. So wonder if you could share a bit more on that timeline and context of the road.
Well, I'll start and then I'll hand it over to Amanda because she'll know some of those details better than I do. But right now, there are two pathways happening. There's the territorial assessment. So the Nunavut Impact Review Board is doing their land claims based process to look at development projects and if they should go forward. So that piece is going. And then the Major Projects Office on the federal level is just starting their consultation to see if the Grays Bay Road and Port projects should be listed under the Building Canada Act, which then leads to the streamlining. Amanda, do you have the details on where we're at those processes?
I'm just trying to find them. I'm on travel right now, so I don't have a lot of it on hand. I just want to say that, like I think this year and next year, I think it's really focused on NERB hearing and that the technical hearings from the proponent. As for the major projects office, I don't know the timeline of that yet. I haven't been in the office for almost a month now, and I'm a little far behind. But that's something that when I'm back next week, I can throw onto the website. And if there's any other questions or comments regarding that side of it, we can definitely arrange a call or go from there.
And that process is really new. It was just on June
It's
24th that they released their news release about the major projects process.
Yeah. And so we haven't actually heard anything at the HTO side. They say there's been consultations already, but they haven't reached out to us yet. So I guess that'll come in near future.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing that. Another question we had was from Rob Gao. I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly. And he asked, what if all the proponents say that the threats to the dolphin and Union caribou from the road and port project can be handled or reduced? So maybe we can start with Amanda again. If the proponents are saying that the threats can be handled, how do you navigate that?
I'd like to know how, because we see other roads and projects especially even in Nunavut, where they are having impacts to caribou. You see it on color data, you hear it from hunters and harvesters in those locations that these roads are really affecting caribou. And, I don't think there's ever been a way for them to truly mitigate any, caribou disturbance. And, I think there's ways that they can lower it, but, I think you see it in the north everywhere that with different projects, whether it's an exploration or an existing mine, there will always be some sort of disturbance, whether it's noise or traffic or dust. So yeah, honestly, I don't know. I don't think there's an answer. And if you're looking at Dolphin and Union, which is in a critical low, if you're going through if you build a road right through their migration path, and with a herd that's already is so in decline, what does that really mean for us? And what does that mean for the caribou and for the people who rely on them?
One thing to add is Canada is now switching to the mitigation hierarchy process, and mitigation is not the first thing on the list. The first thing on the list is to avoid. So the question is, do we actually need this project? And that's one thing we included in the film is, for example, is housing needed more than this road? Is mental health supports needed more than the road? So backing up a step to just ask what is needed, and what is needed, having that answered and framed by community members rather than anyone else. The other piece is that here we have really important caribou habitat, and say you build something there, there's pretty good literature now that shows the impacts of roads on caribou herds. But let's forget about that for now. And we build something in the way. So we're either looking at caribou moving away, adjusting, or we're going to see a disappearance of this herd. Either way, that's changing Inuit harvesting practices, because that area, that hotspot that we pointed out from True River to Wenzel River, is a long-term, like multi-generational traditional harvesting area. And by changing the availability of caribou, leaving away the effectiveness of mitigation, it already has an impact. So we can go back and forth regardless of the evidence behind it, if the road and the port's going to have impacts on caribou, but we know it's going to have impacts on Inuit harvesting rights.
Thank you both for sharing that. Alan, in the film, as well as when you were sharing your own discussion, you had shared that one of the challenges is that community voices are not being heard in this process, and that there's been some frustration around the overall consent and engagement process with the community. So wonder if you and maybe Amanda, Andy as well, could talk a little bit about what informed consent could look like and mean within this context of the project.
There. Thank you, David. Yeah, I think what I had mentioned is that we want to be heard, and we need our voices heard, not just in our own Kugluktuk, but all over. And to have our voices heard and to be able to say, hey, can you come talk to us about this and we can discuss something openly instead of just here's something, put it on the table. Okay, here's what's going to happen. Live with it. We're past that. We've been gone from that from a long time ago. We don't live that way anymore. We have a voice. People have a voice. Not only us, but everyone has a voice, and it needs to be heard, whether it's on traditional rights, harvesting rights, land claim rights, all of everything. Living, we all need to be heard and understood, and to get our message across to the rest of Canada why we are opposed or why we are in favor. We all need to have our voices heard, and to have this platform and to use it, it is amazing. Thank you.
What I'd like to say is that, it's not a done deal. And, what we're hearing from our people is that, can the road be moved? That's one of the things that we talked about at the board level as well, because, at that location, it doesn't help anybody. But you look at the map and you look at the existing or the current exploration camps around it, then you really see who it'll be helping. It's not going to be helping Kugluktuk, right on. You look at some of the exploration camps, they are Chinese state-owned companies. That's who we're helping. This is a public road. This is not helping me as a Inuk in Kugluktuk because, or even somebody else who may not have the means to truck something up on this road to the port and then bring it to the community. We're looking at already increased transportation costs. And when, there's talk about lowering the transportation goods, how is that going to happen when gas is already so expensive, even in the NWT, where things would start out? But it's those kind of things that we want our voices to be heard on. Like Alan said in the video, we need houses. It is no Nunavut-wide that housing is housing needs are in a state of crisis. And, I think it's the root of everything that has been where people have been struggling, because if you have a home of your own, you would be healthy. No more overcrowding. You would be mentally healthier because you have your own space and you do your own thing. You're not worried about what other people are doing, or you're not spreading sickness as well. So, like, we need other things. We do not need this road. One other thing that's not been talked a lot about in this film or even in this session here is ice breakage as well. So there's a potential for ice breakage. And there's been an incident that happened when the ice was forming on the Coronation Gulf, and a hunter was out and then had gone back home. An icebreaker had gone through, but what's really scary is if he didn't get home right away, what that would mean for him. And it scares me because people from Kugluktuk travel to Victoria Island, people from Cambridge, from Kugluktuk travel back and forth from Victoria Island to the mainland. So it's a safety concern as well. And then you think about the caribou. If an icebreaker comes through for a caribou herd that's already in decline, it could totally wipe them out. Maybe I'll stop there. Talk, 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 talk.
I think one other piece to this is that under the Nunavut Land Claim Agreement, and for this particular project, there are 3 Inuit rights-bearing groups. And if we search on the media, we're not hearing the voice from the HTOs on the ground. So that is something that we're trying to do for this film, is have other people that are external to like us who are really deep into it know that Inuit consent is not across the board. The story is a lot more complicated than that. And the HTO as a rights-bearing group deserves to be heard.
Thanks, Andy and Amanda. And I guess just building on that, this video was specifically focused on Kugluktuk voices. But maybe Amanda, I wonder if you could share what people are saying in other communities and if other folks from other communities are also concerned about this road.
Yeah, thank you, David. So I'll only speak to the capacity, that I know, because I've talked with the other HTO managers in our region, from Cambridge Bay, Chohaven, Delapayoc, Kugluktuk, and when they talk to some of their members, their board members or the community members, and what they are saying is that they're very concerned for this road. A lot of people don't support it, especially when it relates to caribou and wildlife, and they don't support it because of that. We've had oral support from each HTO chairs to support us and to support us going against this, and I think that's really important because it'll show a little bit more unified voice region-wide, and I think that'll be a lot stronger in our case. But you talk about, or you talk with some people on the streets or in the community, and we've seen a shift where a lot of people were very supportive again for this road, and I think there's a shift. As the HTO becomes more vocal, we're seeing a shift that they're not in support anymore. And I think we're doing a very good job at telling people, we're what we think. But we're also a voice for the community. And because we are that voice, we have a couple of things that we'll also be doing, is like holding a special meeting, bringing everybody together, everybody that this affects in our community, talking about it, asking questions, and things that we can bring forth to the proponent as well, and as well to the other stakeholders. The Inuit Association, Nunavut Dungavik, I think we really need to see their support on this as well.
And knowing that we only have a few minutes left, there's just one last question I think we have time for, and it was a question around how do you stay hopeful in the context of this project? So maybe each of you could share something very brief about how you stay hopeful.
I'm gonna go first. I stay hopeful because of my son. I look at him and, I'm doing this for him. I was taught to be, family oriented, and I think I need to just stay true to my roots and my traditions and my values, and that'll go a long way.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about that throughout this process and have gone back and forth. And I think at the end of the day, we seem to all be in alignment that we have to be grounded in our heart. And regardless of what happens, we have to be able to look at our next generations, our kids, our grandkids, and say that we did the best we can and be proud of that.
Yes, and this is not only on us, but because of our elders. A lot of them have passed away, and their knowledge was passed on orally, and it has passed on from them, then to us, and now it's us passing it on to our kids and then our future generations. So that's why I am hopeful that we will always have a voice, because we are unified together. We live on food that is from the land. Not everybody goes to the store, but we need to have these animals because the earth is better with them than without them. Thank you so much.
And we'll just pass it back to you, Amanda and Andy, to close. And just to note that for any questions we didn't get to, we're happy to answer those offline as well for those of you who did not submit anonymous questions. But passing it back to you guys.
Yeah, just thank you everybody for joining. We have a long road ahead of us, but I think we're getting there and we're not moving backwards anymore. We are moving forward and we're not going to stop. I said as long as I'm here, I'm going to fight this project because it's my passion. So as David said, reach out if you have any other questions at any time. Thank you. And I just want to say, thank you to the people that we interviewed, for our community members and, the Cloudberry team who, I know this is near and dear to their hearts. So thank you so much, especially Andrea.
Awesome way to end. Thanks, everyone. So, as we showed earlier, please go back to the website and consider filling out some comments to NERB to fill out the petition. Share this as far as you can, and know that at the end of the day, if we work together, something can come out of it. This film came out of it, and that wouldn't have happened with just one of our teams. All right. I
Okay.
think we're all good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Ronak Piak.